Ladies and gentlemen, SuckItUpUSA.com presents Suck It Up MMA Live. No excuses, no quit. With your hosts, positioned firmly in front of the control board, and out of the red corner, Tom McManus! Across the desk, and out of the blue corner, Larry the Professor Sheely!
Blake Grice will join us here on MMA Live on the Suck It Up Radio Network.
Yeah, man, thank you for having me. I'm doing well.
Well, we were just talking about, your career as a fighter and now getting into the refereeing side, and who would know how to ref better than a guy that has been there and done that, and talk about that transition and what you're into now.
And I couldn't agree more. I think a good foundation for a referee is a fighter. Like you said, I started fighting almost 10 years ago, and had a good time, enjoyed it. Got into refereeing by accident. I was at a show in northern Alabama, and the referee didn't show, and they asked if I could do it. Had a couple of injuries fighting, and was kind of doing well at refereeing part-time, and it was just a natural progression for me to stay involved with the sport without having to fight.
Now, Blake, this is Larry Sheely. You said you were in North Alabama, and hopefully they knew you and that you had some sort of fight background before they let you ref the fight. Please tell me they did.
That sounds crazy, but they had heard of me as a fighter.
Okay.
I was there as a corner man, and they said, "Hey, dude, we need a referee," and I literally jumped in and did it, and I guess I did okay, because here I am today.
That's great, Blake. We were talking right before you came on. One of the, I would assume one of the top duties of a ref is when do you jump in? I mean, you never want to jump in too early, obviously, but you don't want to jump in too late, and one of the fighters really take a beating and get hurt, on a permanent side of things.
Yeah, man, that's on the list of things that's difficult being a referee, that's definitely the top. And that's where the experience comes in. And man, we have just a split second to react. It's very easy to call that from home, seeing the the replay. But when it happens in real life, and you literally have a half a second, and a lot's riding on that, including money and fighter safety. Luckily for me, man, I've refereed nearly 1,300 fights, and I may have had maybe one or two early stoppages, and maybe one or two late, but I haven't had a big problem with that. I think a lot of it, is just your reaction time.
And is it your instinct that takes over, Blake? I mean, how do the eyes go, they get that lost look? I mean, when they're no longer defending themselves, obviously, but that, like you said, it happens so quick. When do you know it? Is it just your instinct that takes over, or what are the signs as a referee that makes you say, all right, that's it, it's over?
You know what, that's a great question, and it's, I was recently hired by the ABC, which is the Association of Boxing Commissions, to be one of their national trainers. And one of my slides is what to look for. But to be honest with you, you don't have a lot of time to see that and process it. And so it's almost autopilot when I'm in there anyway.
Right.
I think you see referees make mistakes in their early in their career when they try to think about what's going on and analyzing the eyes. So it's got to be, literally within a half a second, what are his eyes doing? What is his body language saying? How much damage has he taken? Et cetera. And then you got to make that decision like that. So for me, it's more instinct.
Yeah, and how many times do you see it when guys, whether it's boxing, MMA, what have you, and the minute they come to, they're like, wait, what'd you stop the fight for? I was okay, right? I mean, that's got to be one of their first reactions after the fight's stopped and they are not declared the winner.
You're right, but usually when you see that, and I do see that a good bit, but usually when you see that, that means that they were so out of it that they have no idea what happened.
Okay.
Totally unconscious, and wake up asking me, why I stopped it. And that's happened to me. I remember, as a fighter, opening my eyes and thinking it was the start of round 2, and I'd been unconscious for a minute. But it's a weird experience.
That is weird. And you see sometimes guys get knocked out there, then trying to take the referee down, so it's
happened to me.
Yeah, has it really? Yeah, that's got to be an interesting situation to be in. Now, shifting gears a little bit, like the 1,300 fights you've reffed over, 10 years?
Yep.
Yeah, 10 years. Now you're on the precipice of, going into your first UFC fight. Tell me how that feels.
Yeah.
I couldn't be more excited. In my career as a referee, my goal, just like any fighter, any first-time fighter that wants to do mixed martial arts, their goal is to someday make it to the UFC. That's everybody's goal, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Not many people reach it. And so that was also, that wasn't my goal from my first fight, but maybe during my first year you start thinking, maybe I could do this on TV one day.
Mm-hmm.
And 10 years in the making and so many hundreds and hundreds of fights later, I'm at that doorstep, and it's a really cool feeling.
How about as far as additional fights? I'm a former NFL player. I know in the refereeing world, they're not full-time employees, but they do get graded. And if you grade out well, you and your crew get the better games. Monday Night Football, Thursday night,
sure.
Playoffs, and the likes of that. Now that you're getting the shot at the UFC, I'm going to assume again that you're graded heavily. You are, you're going to be really looked at based on your performance. And if you pull it off, it sounds like Dana White's going to say, "Hey, Blake, you got more fights headed your way."
Man, that is in an ideal world. I'm kind of approaching this as my audition. I've spent my time in the, in the minor leagues, and I'm getting called up, and I want to do a good job. I want some action though. I don't want to go in there and have everything easy. I really want the chance to stop a fight and to use my instincts and my experience and be a part of the show, and maybe catch an eye. And I've heard Dana say recently he's not happy with referees in general. Mm-hmm. I'd love to get an opportunity past this one fight.
Yeah, and do you as a ref, do you have to study the fighters at all so you know what maybe to look for, or do you just kind of, I'm just going to go in and do my thing and stay true to what I'm all about as a ref?
It's a little bit of both.
Okay.
It is definitely both. Certainly, usually on a show there's two referees, and we'll meet before, and we'll go down the card and say, hey, we got these heavyweights, and we know this guy, and you know how much damage he can take. So look for this. And so we do. There's a little bit of analyzing, but at the same time, somebody's past doesn't necessarily dictate their future of how they're going to react. Things change, and so that's why you always have to keep sharp and use your instincts.
Okay, you'd be traveling over from. You're coming up in Atlanta. The UFC was at 145.
Yes, sir.
145.
Oh, nice. We might be there, actually, Blake.
We're going to be there, Blake.
Yeah.
We want to see you, buddy. I imagine you've got some friends and family from South Carolina will be making the trek with you on that one. Is that safe to say?
And my home base for fighting is Atlanta. 90% of the fights that I've refereed, I've been lucky enough to live pretty close to Atlanta. So I know a lot of people in the local fight scene, and including friends and family. So I'm sure I'll have some quote unquote fans watching.
And Blake, do you know which fight you'll get? How many fights you'll get? Do you know that going in, or do they figure that out for you when you get there?
I don't. I wish I did. I've had discussions with one of the other referees, and I think I might know. I'm certainly not going to be a main event referee, but I certainly don't think I'm going to be just on the Facebook fights either. So, I think I'm going to get a little bit of a little taste of several different fights.
Well, what an exciting time for you, man!
God,
Congratulations! Way to
Thank you so much.
suck it up for 1,300 fights, and now you got a shot at the big time. I love the fact that you're looking at, hey, this is my audition, man. This is my shot at really doing something and making something of myself as a as a referee in the MMA world. And like you said, UFC's the elite, and man, you pass this test, buddy. You can look forward to a great future with it as well.
Man, I sure hope so. I've definitely made it to the Super Bowl of my quote unquote profession. I don't do it. It's not my profession full time. But as a referee, this is as high as it can get. I'm really, really thankful for the opportunity.
Well, great. Best of luck on that. Now, Blake, tell us a little bit about your school back in Anderson.
Yeah.
I've been in the gym business for almost 10 years, and now 5 years full time, where I run a gym, for a living. The HIT Training Center here in Anderson, South Carolina. We've got a ton of good amateur fighters. A very talented pro fighter named Ronnie Bam Bam Rogers, who actually just fought Rich Clemente.
No, really?
He's getting up. He was kind of knocking on the door, too, of some bigger shows, and he still is. We're based in Thai boxing. We have a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, which is, we feel fortunate in the upstate of South Carolina to have a high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructor. And so we do the school full-time, so mixed martial
Blake, tell me what in your words now as a competitor, as a ref, what sets MMA fighters apart from the other athletes in our world? I mean, obviously we got some great athletes in basketball and football and boxing, and aside from being able to get hit in the face and keep going, but what sets them apart in your opinion?
I think what sets an MMA fighter apart is the fact that there's nobody to blame and there's no excuses. There's no, well, I would have caught that ball if you threw it to me, or I was open. It's all you, man. There's no excuses. So you get all the glory, or if you fail, that's on you too. And so there's just, I think in a world where everybody has excuses for their performance and, blaming other people, there's not a lot of room for that. It's old school. It's you getting in a cage, and I hate to say this, but 2 men enter and 1 man leaves. Just raw sport.
Well, that's what Suck It Up is all about. No excuses and no quitting, living life the right way. I know you guys live it every single day. Tell me, what weight class is your favorite to ref? What weight class is your favorite to watch?
I usually I don't want to say get stuck. I always referee the heavyweights because
okay.
I'm a bigger guy. I'm about 220 pounds, so I always do the bigger guys, and that's fun sometimes. To watch, man, I love like the 35ers.
Yeah.
They're just lightning fast, just unbelievable. So, but I enjoy refereeing them too.
It's great, and I truly mean this, is the little dudes get to fight. You know what I mean? I mean, in other sports, if you're small, you're not going to get there. It's just not going to happen for you because you're not built for that game. But when you're talking about MMA, you're talking about Muay Thai, you're talking about boxing and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, even anybody that has the cojones, anybody that has the skill can really compete in this sport and make something out of themselves, which I think is phenomenal.
Absolutely. I mean, like you said, there's not many sports where a coach would say, "Oh, you're 5'11", 125, perfect." But it's
right.
I did.
Yeah, and I love talking to the wrestlers. We've had Chris Bono on this show. We've had other MMA fighters, that started off in wrestling, and they all say the same thing. Hey, after college, where do I go? Am I going to make the U.S. team? Maybe, but if I don't, where do I go? I don't have nowhere to go. But now everybody does have a place to go. Got to earn it, no doubt about it. Got to work at it without question. But it is just another avenue for these, guys that started off wrestling to get into something and continue a great career.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just the UFC or Bellator. These guys, like you said, maybe college wrestlers or not, man, they can go on and fight in these smaller shows in Atlanta, but still have that big show experience with the theatrics and the environment and really live a dream. Whether you make it to the UFC, that's almost, in my opinion, kind of gravy, but you can still really have a very unique fighting career in the smaller shows around the country.
Blake, shifting gears again back to the UFC and the refereeing, you mentioned that Dana White has, mentioned he's not happy with some of the refereeing issues that we're dealing with. What do you foresee as some sort of standardization for the referees? Is there something we can get everyone on the same page? Not only the referees, actually more like the judges. What do you think the answer to this to make Dana happy in the long run?
Oh, man, that's a tough question. There are things we can do. Like now here in South Carolina and Georgia, everybody has to go through an ABC class. But, is that one-day class going to, first of all, it doesn't certify you. It just says you've been through this class.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's a good start, but is that going to make you an expert? No. And unfortunately, man, with referees, some of it's going to be trial and error. You can kind of get into these smaller shows and see how it goes, but I don't know if there's an answer to get everybody on the same page and make everybody happy, because there's always that human factor. And,
right.
We're going to mess up sometimes.
Yeah. And then from the judge's standpoint, you see one judge may have a background in something. He's looking for one thing, and then the other judge may be looking for something else. And sometimes you wonder, what fight are these guys watching,
Yeah, I will agree with that. There's more controversy with judges.
Yeah.
And I wish there could be something done to make all the judges get on the same page. But then again, like they say, don't leave it in their hands. You've got 15 minutes to finish the fight.
Hey, Blake, I know one recent fight a lot of people weren't very happy with because not as much action. That was the Carlos Condit and Nick Diaz fight. Hey, what were your thoughts on that? Could the ref done something different, and what would you possibly have done different with that fight?
I wouldn't have done anything. I think it was a very smart fight.
Okay.
Sometimes smart and great fights aren't the best to watch. We as fans want to see these guys just run in and butt heads and swing at each other, and that's not always real smart. So I wouldn't have done anything different because, Condit didn't do anything wrong. He was just being very smart. Now, there have been quote-unquote boring fights when I referee, and I've called time, and I've, warned both men for timidity, for refusing to engage. But I think there's a difference in refusing to engage and being smart.
So maybe you put it back on Diaz. He should have just stood there in the center and said, "Hey, quit your moving around. When you're ready to fight, we'll fight." Right? I guess.
I guess so.
Yeah, we were talking about it. That's an interesting perspective coming from your angle there, because I know as fans we were like, "Man, what the heck's going on? We want to see more action, more action." But instead of being boring, it's more of a smart fight from your angle.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Why would you stand there and punch with one of the Diaz brothers? You're probably going to lose,
Okay.
That'd be smart. There's a lot on the line. It's his health, it's his career, it's his payday, it's the belt. So pleasing the fans is important, but that's third or fourth on my personal list of what you should do as a fighter.
Yeah, everyone looks at the fight differently.
Yep.
Promoters going to want the headbangers and make it happen and put butts in the seats. So there's got to be a mix there along the way, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Very good.
Well, I know locally here we're putting on some fights. We're getting those together. We're doing it for TV as well. And I know as a promoter of those fights, I want to see action, but you gave me something to think about. So before I, say anything to a future ref, I'm going to remember what you said, Blake, that, hey, these guys got a lot on the line, and we should be able to tell a difference between being timid and being smart. And if not, we just got to rely on the trust of the ref for that bout and for that night, I guess.
Yeah, man, and as these fighters get better, that's going to happen. 10 years ago, I think you saw a lot of guys just slugging it out, but, would you stand and box with one of the Diaz brothers? No, of course not. And I don't think that there's a timid bone in Carlos Condit's body.
Right.
He's one of the best fighters in the world. Mm-hmm. He was just being a little bit smarter that night.
All right, fair enough. Blake Grice,
fight.
our guest here on MMA Live and the Suck It Up Radio Network, former MMA competitor, current referee, and making his UFC debut as a referee coming up in Atlanta at UFC 145. Also owner of Hit Elite Training Center up in South Carolina in Anderson, South Carolina, if you want to check him out. And, Blake, Larry and I were very much involved in anti-bullying, not only here in Northeast Florida. We're extending beyond that. And I know as an owner of a gym like the Hit Elite Training Center, you guys aren't about whose butt you can kick. It's about giving these kids confidence, letting them walk with a little bit of not swagger per se, but just having that confidence so that bully doesn't pick on them. I believe it's a community problem. It's not just the kids getting bullied. It's the bullies themselves. It's the parents. It's the teachers. And it's the coaches. And if you could, expand on that just for a moment, because I got to believe that's a big part of what you guys do.
It is, man. And you use the word swagger, and I use that word sometimes too, because you do. If you've been training how to fight for a decade, you do have a little bit of a swagger.
Sure.
But at the same time, I haven't gotten in a street fight in 20 years. As a matter of fact, I don't think anybody in my gym has.
Right.
It's not worth it. From a bullying point of view, I think it is helpful. Like we talked about the smaller kids. Now all of a sudden that 110-pound kid can stand up for himself. And I never, ever advocate street fighting. But I think it is good for these kids to finally have something that they can, get some confidence from it and be able to stand up for themselves.
Absolutely.
Right. Fantastic stuff. Blake, we greatly appreciate your time here on MMA Live on the Suck It Up Radio Network, and hope to have you on once again. Best of luck in your UFC debut, and we are making a road trip up there, so hopefully we can say hello to you while we're there.
Come see me when you get there.
All right, buddy. Have a great day, and thanks so much.
No, thank you, guys.
This has been a production of SuckItUpUSA.com and EIGProductions.com. Heard exclusively on the Suck It Up Radio Network.